Ah, my 10,000 word outline is finally finished. Nerd. Huh? What's that? Nerd! Not the pantser. Outline? More like novella! Wait, no!
You really don't want to?
Gotcha! Whoa. Yeah, should have planned a little bit more. Hey writing gang, Roadside Writer here. Bet you're wondering what in the world you just witnessed. Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today. The very first thing you do before you even start writing with a story. Making the plan. But before we can get into that, we've got to talk about what we just saw. The eternal struggle between two opposite poles of writing. If you've never heard the term pantser before, yes, that really is what some writers call themselves. So let's talk about the difference between these two different camps of writing, plotters and pantsers. Plotters tend to plan out most of, if not all of their story before they even start writing. These are the types of people that write really detailed outlines, sometimes going up to 10,000 words. Some might outline every single plot twist, character development, subplot, kind of like the guy we saw in the intro with the fat stack, but others aren't nearly so intense. Pantsers are the flip side of this coin. The term comes from the expression flying by the seat of your pants. They plan too, only in a much more spontaneous way. If plotting is knowing every move before you make it, pantsing is figuring out each move as you're moving. The difference between plotters and pantsers is sometimes likened to that between method and magic. Pantsing allows you to throw in twists that readers could not possibly have seen coming because you didn't until a couple minutes before you wrote it. It lets the story kind of take on a life of its own, or even write itself, as some people say. Plotting makes sure that every loose end is tied up in the end, every major subplot has a resolution, and that the end of your conflict resonates with the themes of your work. So, which one is better? Pantsing, duh. Nerd. Just kidding. They're actually both equally important when you're planning out how to write a novel. And I don't take a hard stance on either one. As a matter of fact, I'm 95% sure that most writers fall somewhere in a healthy gray middle area versus on the white or black ends of the spectrum, taking a hard stance of I'm a pure pantser or I'm a pure plotter. A story written without spontaneity or improvisation, sure, can be pretty damn predictable and, dare I say it, sometimes boring. But that being said, if you kind of flip and flop your path through your story based on any whim you have the potential to end up with a lot of plot holes and critical loose ends left untied at the end of the story. So as we talk about making the plan in today's writer's Jumpstart kit, are we going to go over tips to deal with plotting or pantsing? Neither. Both. Plantsing. If you're just starting to put together the plan for your story, here are a couple tips that, in my humble opinion, believe to be the best practices that combine a little bit of plotting and a little bit of pantsing. And don't forget, I'm working on an instructional course dealing with this kind of content right now, the beginning stages of your story. So if you like this video and you want a little bit more specific, intense, focused direction on how to start your story, subscribe to the YouTube channel or the website in the link below to make sure you stay updated about progress on the course. So, our first tip on getting started, use the spark. This tip is more on the pantsing side of things. What do I mean by spark? I would confidently say in most cases, people don't decide on writing as their career or their life path without having a particular story idea in mind. The thing is, not many people in life, relative to how many people there are, get past that first step, that hatching the idea stage. They think of it and they let it go because they underestimate the power of that idea, of that spark. It's powerful. Add a little paper and suddenly you've got fire. What I mean is this: if you want to start writing, start writing. Take that almost formless lump of clay kind of idea and write it down. You'd be surprised how many more ideas will come to you once pen hits paper or fingers hit keyboard and words start forming. Even if it's just one sentence about one character, one place, one event that happens. Even if it's not a full sentence. Humans are natural problem solvers. Trust me, you start writing something down and you end up with an unfinished story, your brain's gonna automatically start trying to fill in the gaps. But this won't happen if you never put that initial idea down on paper. You'll never get past that idea stage. Pieces of flint don't make a spark just by sitting around. Someone's gotta pick them up and click them together. If you think I'm full of it, you're right. If it is the truth, just take a look at this outline I used from the beginning of the video as an example. That's the original first draft written of my ebook Strand, The Silver Radio, which is now published on Amazon. Now it's a whole series, 3 books long in the making and growing, and it all started with a very simple idea. Artist lives in a tower, everyone has augments, he does not, falls in love with a girl who needs to sacrifice her life to save the tower. Bingo, that was it. 1 sentence about a couple characters, and that turned into a whole series. 3 books in, it's full of subplots, romance arcs, character developments, antagonist redemptions, but it all started with a simple idea on paper. So if you've got an idea in your head and you want to start writing, start writing. Let the sparks fly. Tip number 2, expand. This tip falls somewhere between plotting and pantsing. You got your basic idea down on paper. Great, where do you go now? Truth is, it's pretty much up to you. There are 2 major routes you could go from writing your initial idea down. Option 1, you write out that spark however long it lasts. You start writing and you keep writing. Writing what, you ask? Take that initial idea and just continue it. Spark the flint again. Keep writing scenes as they come to you, as the ideas are born in your mind. They don't have to necessarily even be in the order they're going to end up in the end. This is pure pantsing. When you feel something, you write it. When you write on sheer emotion, you might come up with an ending before you come up with the beginning. Write whatever you feel. Figure out where it goes later. That's a problem for the next scene in the world of Pants Airways. Here's option 2, and this is the far opposite of option 1 I just gave you. Take that initial idea and start doing some conceptual planning. Outline. Based on your initial idea, what other scenes could theoretically happen in this world or in this situation for these characters? You don't have to write them out exactly as they'll be, just a sentence here describing a scene, a paragraph there describing an environment, but plot things out and then arrange them in an order that makes sense to tell a story. Some people do very basic bullet point outlines. Some people do serious chapter by chapter outlines that are the length of the one we saw in the beginning. That was only half a joke. The bottom line and the target of using option 2 here is to puzzle piece as much of your plot together as you can before you start writing. This is pure plotting. There is a 3rd option, forbidden fusion of plotting and pantsing. And don't tell anyone, but this is actually what I do. It's also what I recommend to those still developing their own style. Plot out a few key events. Create a few character profiles. Outline a few locations. Then start writing. If you have at least a beginning, an ending, and one event in the middle in mind, you can write your way from point A to B to C. You don't have to plan out everything, because if you connect those dots carefully in a way that makes sense, you should end up with a cohesive story that's believable and almost guaranteed to write itself organically, as long as you don't throw in a serious left turn that takes you way off course. For instance, if I start off my book with an innocent banker and I know that he kills someone in the middle of the book and that in the end he's redeemed, there are only finite paths that character can take that are going to bring him to all 3 of those points. It puts my protagonist's actions and reflections in a sort of framework. It gives me some guidance as to what locations he should go to and what events occur. Tip 3 goes for those who align more with plotting or pantsing alike. Feed the fire. If inspiration can be likened to a spark that helps you start your story, you have to remember there's a much more important ingredient to keeping a fire alive: fuel. Those big logs that burn for hours, you need those, and that doesn't come from inspiration. Any experienced writer will tell you that inspiration ebbs and flows. Sometimes it disappears entirely. When that happens, you need to be able to pick up your pen or your laptop and write anyway. If you rely on inspiration alone to write, this is very similar to trying to keep a roaring fire alive with nothing but newspaper and twigs. It's exhausting and frustrating, and it's probably going to go out eventually. You need the logs. Just like when you're writing, you need discipline. Discipline is even more important in the beginning stages of a story. That's when you need to develop it. That's when writing needs to become a habit for you. Because just like any relationship, your relationship with your work in progress is going to change over time. That initial new love you have for your story, the passion, the excitement, well, after a while, the story is not going to be new to you anymore, and that passion's going to wane. It's just a fact of writing. And when that happens, you need to be able to pick up your pen or laptop and write anyway. Otherwise, you'll never finish a story. You'll put it down as soon as the inspiration leaves you. Don't worry, the passion will come back. But if you put down your pen the first time that the inspiration leaves you, you may never pick it up again. Don't break up with your story. Don't be afraid of a little bit of commitment. In those initial stages, when your story is still new and exciting and you have all this passion for it, that's when you need to make sure that you're writing on a schedule, not just when you feel like it. Ride out that spark and that heat, the fire, and make it a habit then, when it's easy. Then, when the inspiration leaves you a little bit, writing that story will just be a habit. Write every day, at least a couple times a week on some type of rigid schedule, even if it's just a little. And working on an outline counts. Just make sure you dedicate time to work on your story. Like a long-term relationship, you have to really love it if you want it to work, not just be excited over it because it's new. Feed the fire, folks. I really hope this video cleared out some of the mysticism of getting started with the plan for you guys. After watching this video, would you say you lean more towards the plotting side or the pantsing side? Or are you gonna hang out with your favorite writing YouTuber right somewhere in the middle? And no one ever knew it was Professor Ashmeat in the blender. Oh, that presentation couldn't have gone any better. Pants are a little tight though. I don't know how I'm gonna get them off. Doesn't a garden of beautiful stories sound kind of nice? Whichever way you go, leave me a comment and let me know. Whatever way works for you, I'm just glad you're writing. The world needs more good stories and good people to tell them. And remember, if you want more in-depth, focused techniques on planning out your first big story, look out for my course, Basics of Plotting a Novel. And yes, just by the nature of helping you start, the course is going to be more on the plotting side of things. But not without incorporating some improvisation. It'll have a ton of step-by-step details and even worksheets to help you guys actually write down and start forming an idea for your story as you go through the course. If you'd like to support what I do with The Roadside Writer, remember to subscribe to my channel here on YouTube, like the video, hit the bell icon, and you can also subscribe to me on my website, which is a link in the description, or become a patron, also a link in the description. And if you just Google plotting versus pantsing, you're gonna find a ton more information than what I could capture and put into this video. But my recommendation is to incorporate a little bit of both techniques. Create a well-planned out, cohesive story with a couple of unpredictable twists. As always, thanks for watching, guys. I couldn't do what I do without you. Roadside Writer, out.